Any questions that you have on the parsing for chapter 27? We can look at specific issues here. Happy to work through this. Questions, comments, concerns? Yeah, number 7.
The answer he said for the gender it could be masculine or neuter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how it could be masculine.
Okay, so kata bainanta. All right. You see the new tau here, right? That tells us that this is a participle. And so what I'm adding after the new tau are the case endings for what declension pattern? If that's a consonant, the case endings being added to consonants have to be which declension pattern? Third, okay? So what we have to do is we have to ask ourselves, are there any places in the third declension pattern where an alpha is the case ending? And there's a couple of places where that's true. In the masculine feminine column, it's what? Accusative singular masculine. In the neuter column, it's nominative and accusative neuter plural, or plural neuter. Okay? So those are my possibilities there. Do you want to see the case endings real quick, or do you trust me? Sure, or you trust me? You sure trust me? Okay, no. All right, hold on. So this is my handout on the case endings. First, second declension on the left, third declension on the right. So what we're looking for here are alpha case endings. And so we've got one here, alpha or nu for the masculine and feminine third declension case endings in the accusative singular. And then over here, the neuters are right there, okay? So everybody see that, right? So that's why you have more than one possibility here. Are there any specific ones that I could go through that would help the rest of you? Any ones where you had some trouble? Well, on the parsing, if there's any specific ones there. All right. Let me just walk you through a couple of things here. Let's just start with number 1. You have the verb akuanton, and you've got this own ending here. Now, that own could belong to nouns and adjectives as well as participles, right? So we've seen that as a case ending. When you see it, you might be wondering, is that truly a noun or adjective, or is it a verb form that's a participle? And so you want to look and see what this is attached to. You've got the remnants or a part of a verb that you've learned, akuo, and the other thing you see is this new tau, and that is a participle morpheme. It indicates that you're dealing with the participle here. So that's going to be one of your keys for knowing what part of speech this belongs to. We can already parse this as a genitive plural form, right? We know that. What gender is it? That we're not sure about just by looking at the own. We have to look right before it and ask ourselves, is this a third declension form, or is it a first declension form? Because the feminine participles, it doesn't matter whether we're dealing with active or middle passive. The feminine participles are always what declension pattern? They're always first. They're always first declension. They're going to have an alpha or an eta stem, and then the case endings. Usa for the active, and mene for the middle passive. Okay? So feminines are always first declension. So if I ever have a case ending and it's not a first declension one, then it's got to be one of the other genders. Okay? Now, does the masculine and the neuter form use the new tau participle morpheme, or does just one of them do that? They both do. In other words, our active participles follow a 3-1-3 pattern. Third declension for the masculine and the neuter. Okay? Which means I'm going to be using that new tau, which ends with a consonant before I add the case ending. I'm going to see that there. So this could be masculine or neuter, okay? But it can't be feminine. The feminine would be similar, but it would be usone, okay? I'd have that us, normally an alpha or eta here, but the omega swallows it up or obscures it. All right? So just thinking about what this might mean is this active or middle passive? It's active. Middle passive's the meno, mene endings, right? Or participle morphemes. So this is present active participle, and it's genitive plural, masculine or neuter. So how do I want to translate this? What's a way to translate an active participle? Okay, while, and then am I going to use the ing form or the ed, en, or t ending? Ing. So while listening. Okay, while listening. Now, even though it's genitive plural here, and you may be thinking, well, I want to use the genitive keyword of. The fact of the matter is we don't have any context here to know how this participle is functioning beyond that we're in the adverbial participle chapter. So we'll just do the while kind of translation. Or it could be because, and then you can't just say because hearing, right? You have to use a finite form for that, and we don't have any context to know whether it's past or present or any such thing. You could also just translate it as hearing or listening for now, and then when you see it in a real sentence, you'll have a better sense of how to translate it, okay? But right now, my focus is just on helping you to see what's here, to parse, to understand the forms, okay? Now, let's look at number 2 real quickly. I have zaytunti. Do you see anything identifiable here, say, on the back end of this? Whether it's a case ending or a participle morpheme or anything like that. Yeah, you see the new tau. That should be making you think participle, right? Is this an active or middle passive kind of participle? It's active. New tau's for active, meno, mene, middle passive, right? Now, for the iota after that new tau, what is that signaling for me? What case ending is iota? It's dative, singular. Good. What else? Dative, singular. And it could be masculine or neuter. Now, an iota could also be feminine in third declension feminine forms, can't it? But our participle is going to be third declension when they're feminine. No. What declension do they follow? First. Okay, I'm going to keep saying this until I'm blue in the face or you throw up, okay? Don't throw up. Just let me be blue in the face. All right, so I've got a consonant, new tau, and then a case ending. So that's, again, this is our 313 pattern. So it's either masculine or neuter, dative singular. All right? What verb might this be from? It's actually from ze teo. Okay? Ze teo. Now, what's happened here? I've had a contraction because ze teo is what kind of a verb? It's a contract verb. And the epsilon of ze teo is interacting with the omicron that would normally come before the new tau. When I have epsilon and omicron meeting, they contract to omicron upsilon, okay? So that's what's happened here. What is my, I have to put a couple of things here, don't I? My tense is really my tense stem. In this case, it's the present stem, right? It's the zetet stem, just with contraction. The voice is active. And then even though the participle is not technically a mood, we're going to put participle in the place where we normally put a mood. All right? And then how would we translate this using the typical participle translation value? What does zeteo mean? To seek. So just the simplest way to translate a participle? Seeking. Seeking. Okay? Seeking. All right. Now, look at number 5. We have phones here. Phones. What are we looking at here? Is this a verb form? No. Have you learned any verbs that have the phone form? What's that? Yeah, just phone, phones. That's right. So if our lexical form is phone, then this is a noun, right? And what we have here is just the sigma added to the stem. And that would mean this is not a participle, it's just a noun in what declension pattern? First, when I have an alpha or eta before my case ending, that's first declension, right? Now, in the first declension, what does a sigma indicate as a case ending? Okay, it could be genitive singular or accusative plural. That's right. Which is it here? It's genitive singular. Now, you said that so confidently. Why not accusative plural? That's right. Remember, in first declension, the alphas and the etas that you start with in the singular always become alpha in the plural. Okay? So I would need phonos to have accusative plural feminine. I've got an eta still here, so this must be genitive singular. Okay? And feminine. All right, good. How would you translate that then? Yeah, of a noise, or of a voice. Okay, good. So anyhow, does that help? All right. When you look at number 9, we have usas here. Usas. Does that look like the participles endings for one of the forms? It does, right? Like you normally see something like lu usas. What is this that we're seeing here? Yes, this is a me in the participle form. Which participle form? Is this the present stem or the aorist stem? Yeah, this is the present stem for the participle. So this is present active participle. Look at the sigma here. That is following an alpha, which means it's what gender? It's a feminine gendered form, right? It's first declension. And with that sigma, what's my possibilities for case ending? Accusative plural or genitive singular. What's that? Okay, the alpha tells me it's accusative plural. Could I not have an alpha here? Think, for example, of hora. The genitive singular is horas. Remember that? Okay, that's right. I like to call this the REI rule. You guys ever been shopping at REI? Okay, great place to shop. It's also a great thing to remember when you're thinking about first declension nouns. If my alpha is preceded by REI, rho, epsilon, or iota, the alpha stays. If it's not, then the alpha in the singular switches to an eta. Doc says. Okay? So in this situation, usa becomes uses in the genitive singular. It goes to usas in the accusative plural. So we can tell the difference, absolutely. So accusative, plural, feminine. Okay? All right. How would you translate usas? Being. Exactly, being. And by the way, I think it might have been Kyle who asked about this, but those of you who have been taking historical theology, have you ever learned the word ousia? Yeah, it's being or essence, right? Homoousios, the same essence. Homoousios, similar or like essence. Okay, so this is from the root. Okay, well, let's move on. Shall we do the warm-ups here? Any questions about warm-ups? Okay. Sure. Well, let's look at delta real quickly. Everybody, let's say this together. Ready? Pros elthon. Ooh, let's say it together. Pros elthon auto didascanti hoi archieres. Okay. So how much of this can you translate and tell me where we need some explanation?
I got really confused in the archie
Mm-hmm.
what that was.
Ah, right. Okay, good. Well, you see the hoi here? What does that tell you about archieres? What is that? Is this the relative pronoun or is this the article? Yes, this is the genuine article, isn't it? What case gender number is it? It's masculine plural. And? Hoi? What case is that? That is nominative, exactly. And so it turns out that this is also the nominative masculine plural case ending. This epsilon iota is actually the contraction of an epsilon at the end of the stem here, plus an epsilon sigma case ending, third declension, which is the nominative plural masculine. Okay, we have I don't know if you've learned basileus. Have you learned basileus? That's going to follow that same pattern. Okay. Anyhow, trying to think of other ones that you may have learned, but this is a third declension noun, and so it's going to be the subject, and then proselthon, because it's plural, by the way, proselthon is third person plural in the secondary active endings, isn't it? Now, what does proselthon mean? To go to, or went to. Okay, so what's the subject again? Hoi archieres. What are those? The high priests. And then went to or came to, auto, him. What case gender number is auto? Dative, singular. And it's either masculine or neuter, isn't it? So came to him or it. And then didascanti. Do we have a verb that looks like that? Didasco, good. You have see the new tau here? It's participle. And the iota is dative singular and masculine neuter as well, right? So I'm going to translate this. The high priest came to him didascanti. Who's doing the teaching? Is it the high priest or the him? It's the him. I've got this grammatical link of the same case gender number with him, not with the high priest. So he's doing the teaching. So if I make this temporal, it would be the high priest came to him, what? While he was teaching. Exactly. And if it had been didaskon tes, nominative plural masculine, then it would have been the high priest came to him while they, the high priests, were teaching. So you see how that works. All right, so does that help? Okay, good. Other questions?
So in that case, is it wise to start with your hoi archieres and then find the verb?
Well,
Really start there.
you're of course the verb is the first thing you see in the linear order of things, and you don't know it given that there's no context here whether that's third plural or first singular, right? So it's either I or they came to him teaching. Once you see that iota there, you know that it's linked to auto. So whoever came to him while the him was teaching, and then the subject's delayed here. All right. Others? Sure. Let's look at Ada there. The one thing that maybe is difficult is blepusin here. Looks like that could be dative plural and masculine or neuter participle. All right. You see that usin there? And so you might be tempted also looking at the blepontes here. You see that's also a participle That could be masculine, plural, and nominative. All right. Seeing, not seeing. Okay. What's the problem with that? Look at the oo particle here. What does that mean? Not. And when you're negating a participle, do you use oo? No. You would use may. So the fact that I've got oo in front of blepusin tells me this is not the participle blepusin. That's dative plural masculine. It's rather the real indicative verb blepo in what? Present active indicative, third person plural. Okay? So I need to translate these as finite verbs. Or this is finite verb. And then I'm going to do the same thing with akuusin. Okay? So both of these are the same parsing, just different verb forms. They do not hear or see, and they do not hear. Okay? And these participles are merely modifying those main clauses. Okay? That is, seeing, they do not see, and hearing, they do not hear. All right? And you can, looking at the context, decide what sort of adverbial participle is this? Is it giving me temporal information, in which case I'd say while seeing, they do not see? Is it causal? Because they are seeing, they do not see? Which that doesn't make much sense, does it? There's also a concessive use of the participle. Although seeing, they do not see. Although hearing, they do not hear. So that to me seems like the most likely thing, because those are two things that are juxtaposed that should not go together, right? Seeing and not seeing, and hearing and not hearing, right? If you can hear, then you should hear. And if you can see, then you should see, okay? So this is a concessive notion.
Yeah, and so like when Mounce translated it, he said while seeing they're not seeing. So is that the same as while seeing they do not see? Is that the same?
Yeah, the are not seeing and do not see are both just present tense ways in English to translate this. When I translated it as do not see, I'm taking that as a habitual statement, right? When I say you are not seeing, that would make you think like you're right in the middle of not seeing, like right now. Okay, and I think that this is sort of a generic judgment that Jesus is making on a people.
So that's more like contextual.
Yes,
more
exactly.
Like this individual sin.
Mhm.
Translated this way. That's
Right.
in the context of like the whole story.
Exactly. All right. Anyhow, Connor, does that help?
Yeah.
Okay, good. You bet. Other questions? If you look at gamma, we have apestelon. What kind of a verb form is this? Is this a participle or is this an indicative verb? It's indicative. Now, which tense? Is it present, imperfect, aorist, future, or perfect? It's something past. You know that because of augment. And where's your augment? It's the first epsilon here. What's the verb? This is from apostello, right? Okay. If that's the lexical form, are we looking at the present stem here? No. This has got to be something outside the present stem possibilities then. So even though this is past, could it be the imperfect? Because the imperfect uses the present stem. So if it's past, it has to be what? It's got to be aorist. Okay. Look at the elon here. Apestelon. What am I looking at here? What sort of an aorist is this? It's a liquid aorist. So even though I'd like to see a sigma alpha, is my liquid aorist going to allow that to happen? No. Remember, futures have problems with liquid aorists. And instead of using the plain old sigma, they use what tense formative? Epsilon sigma. And with And with the first aorist, instead of using sigma alpha, the sigma falls out, but the alpha's present, okay? So I would have liked to have seen a sigma alpha, but all I'm seeing is the alpha here. And then I've got the nu, which is the actual personal ending. So you tell me, this is the secondary active tense. What is that? First singular, third plural, or what? It's third plural. What would the first singular be? It'd be apestela. If you remember, luos aorist, first aorist is elusa, elusas, eluse. The first singular has no ending. Third plural has that nu, elusan. Okay? So you can tell the difference here between first singular and third plural. So they did what? They apostelloed means they sent. Prosalton, to him. And then I have kaluntis. Kaluntis. You see the new tau here? What's that tell you? This is a participle. See the epsilon sigma? What's that tell you? Nominative, plural, masculine. S could also be feminine, objectively speaking, for third declension. Nominative, plural, right? But can it be that here? No, because among my participles, the feminine forms never use the third declension. Feminine forms use which declension pattern? First, that's right. So this is nominative, plural, masculine participle. So who is doing the calling? Him or the subject of apestelan? They. They. It's nominative because the conceptual subject is the same as the implied subject that's unstated as the subject of apestelan. Okay, because if we had it overtly here, it would have been nominative case, wouldn't it?
So just to clarify, like, you keep saying that the feminine would be, like, we'll use first declension.
Mm-hmm.
So what exactly, like, maybe it's just a really dumb question, but does that mean it's using first declension endings even though it's feminine?
Well, first declension is usually feminine, right? The first declension.
What's odd about it then? That's what I'm like.
Well, what I'm pointing out is that normally you're going to see nu tau and then your case endings, but that's only true if it's a masculine or neuter form. You're going to see usa, ses, and so forth if it's feminine instead of the nu tau. Okay? So, in other words, the reason I keep going back to first declension is because in my active participle, all the forms are third declension except the feminine. Masculine's third declension, neuter's third declension. The feminine's the one that's not third declension. It's first declension. Okay? Let me just, I'll go back here to my handout just as a reminder. When we're dealing with third declension, remember, anything that's third declension could be any gender, and it's not always clear what gender it is. Okay, so it's only in the first and second declensions where we're going to see the stem vowel omicron before the sigma, like logos, omicron before the nu, ergon, right? We know those are masculine and neuter, and in this case, we'll have alpha or eta before the no ending if it's a feminine first declension, right? So this is 2, 1, 2. So you can usually identify the gender of a noun if it's second or first declension. When we get to third declension, all bets are off. You can't really look at a third declension noun's lexical form and determine whether that's masculine or feminine or neuter, right? So, and in third declensions, usually the masculine and feminine case endings are identical to each other, and it's the neuter that ends up being slightly different, whereas over here, the masculine and neuters are more like each other. Okay, and so what I'm just trying to point out is that when we're dealing with their declension, masculine and feminines are always the same in terms of the case endings they use here. But when we get to the participle, you might be thinking, okay, participle, nu tau, third declension, the feminine's going to have the same case endings. No, they're going to go over and take these because we're using us plus or usa plus nothing sigma iota nu. Okay. All right.